Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And I'm sitting now at a kind of a new monument of Dublin. And it's the old St. James Church. It actually, Pearse Lyons actually bought this place in 2012 or 2013. And he wanted to build a distillery here. And now it is actually the Pearse Lyons Distillery. And yeah, he was very connected to this area. 5 generations of coopers were here in this area working for all the distilleries back in the days. And he was the 6th one who said, no, I'm not going to be a cooper, I'm going to go into distilling. And he worked himself up through engineering jobs of building new distilleries, commissioning them. And he got kind of rich in the States with a lot of business of yeast and brewing and distilling as well. And the first time he actually entered the church was when his grandfather was buried. So back then he actually came back and he had a look around and he realized this church is in a really abysmal stage. It was abandoned, it was not used as a church. There was a farmer's market in there. There was a lighting company who hung like more than hundreds of lights from the ceiling to like sell lights, and there were chains everywhere, and the whole cemetery was like grown over. So he decided, okay, let's renovate this place and let's make a distillery out of it. And he actually bought it. And 2 weeks after that, the city probably just researched who bought the place, and they decided to make it a national heritage site. So it got like protection. He couldn't like change everything he wanted, but it now is a protected building. So all the tourists are actually really interested in that as well. So kind of a win-plus situation. But the big minus was that he had to put a lot of money into it. They were really strict with the building, and they opened up a limestone quarry in France, and for the shingles on the roof they got something from a closed quarry in Wales, and they really built it up pretty much exactly when it was back in the days, except for the tower that has now a glass roof on it, and all the glass windows, they have a bit of different pictures and stories to tell, but it's very nice, and the people from the heritage side are happy. He was happy, and he found actually out that not just his grandfather was buried here, but actually like 9 relatives that actually worked here. They were working here as coopers for 5 generations. That is quite back then, and he was the first one to get into brewing and distilling. And so that was the area of where all the distilleries were up there, and brewers also, and all the farmers with the grain and the malt. And so there are really important names buried here, like from the Pearse Whiskey, the man and his wife as well. They were buried here, and a lot of other people as well that are really, really famous within the whiskey industry, because this was, Dublin Liberties was the whiskey center pretty much of the world as well, but of Ireland. And so in 2013 he started renovating. The project was calculated with 5 million and 1.5 years. It ended up with 20 million plus and 4 years. So they opened up the place in 2017, 2018, got to distilling, and they came in at 6th place, so the 6th distillery, and a few other distilleries were racing them, and they were getting in behind. But unfortunately in 2019 he actually passed away. Pearse Lyons actually passed away, but his son, also a brewer and distiller, took over the business, and he is well aware of everything, doing it really well, and he's the CEO of the company. So the Pearse Lyons is really doing well here. And let's get into the St. James Chapel and find out how this distillery is actually doing. The ingredients here at Pearse Lyons are actually really nice, because they had a change in 2021. They actually phoned up a local farmer, and they had a really nice conversation with him, and they have 120 hectares of land here. So they actually got to farm their own land and grow their own barley and other grains as well. So since 2021, all of the ingredients, as in terms of the grain, comes from their own land. And as I said, they do have malted barley. They have a malter which they work together with, and they get it pre-milled. And yeah, the malted barley, the single malt, is pretty easy. They have an own mash tun, which is really good, because the mash tun that is specialized, you can have the perfect temperatures. They have 4 different temperature levels where the different enzymes work really good. And then you have 1,000 liters of water with 200 kilograms of grist. And then you bring it over to the lauter tun, where you separate the solids from the liquids. This is all for the single malt. As I said, pretty easy. If you have other grains in there, they do wheat, they do rye, and they do oats. If you have other grains, you have to look at the things. If you grind them down, if you grind them too coarse, you get a really bad yield. If you grind them in too fine, then you have problems later with clogging your intercooler, with clogging your lauter tun. You can clog anywhere. And so what you want to do, you want to have it just grind it down the right way. And with the temperatures within the mash tun, they set to different levels. And then you can really find out where the enzymes within the corn actually work best. And they're really good with it, so they have worked themselves in. They use 100% unpeated. Up until now, they have done one experiment, but they might look into the future with peated. But up until now, they go with 100% unpeated malt. In the end, you have treated all your grains so that in the end you have a liquid without solids that is really, really sugary, that has all the starches split into sugars, and that is perfect for making alcohol. The fermentation here at Pearse Lyons is really special, as they use a yeast from Alltech. And Alltech is a company that also belongs to Pearse Lyons, and they actually are very into natural things. They developed an animal feed that was based on yeast and helped the cow to digest. It really became big when we had the BSE crisis in the UK, so that was all natural, so there was no possibility of any contamination, and it really grew into a huge business. So Pearse Lyons, with his knowledge of yeast as a brewer and distiller and with the animal feed, he went to Germany, got a brewer's yeast that he selected very special, that was really good for the Irish whiskey. And this is what they use today. They have 6 washbacks, 2 wooden ones, each 1,000 liters in volume, and 4 stainless steels. And they ferment for 4 to 6 days. And they really want to create something, nice and fruity with enough alcohol for a good distillation.
Pearse Lyons whiskey is distilled on 2 special stills, real Kentucky copper pot stills. This is absolutely exceptional for Irish whiskey. The 2 stills originally came from the USA and were purchased by Pearse Lyons himself in Kentucky 2011. They were named Mighty Molly and Little Lizzie, inspired by distant relatives from the Lyons family. This is how the American still technology was brought to Europe. In return, the American sister distillery Town Branch uses European stills. In 2008, Pearse had 2 copper pot stills delivered from Scotland. Whiskey has been distilled in Lexington again since 2011. The whiskey from Pearse Lyons is double distilled, unlike many other Irish whiskies, which are typically triple distilled. More of the natural oils and flavors are retained here. It was important to Pearse to preserve the full character of the malt for a stronger, more flavorsome whiskey. The very first distillation took place in 2012, not yet in the current distillery, but using the same stills. Since 2017, however, distillation has taken place at the Pearse Lyons Distillery itself, located in the heart of Dublin. Mighty Molly, the larger of the 2 stills, has a reflux bowl and a long line arm. Little Lizzie, the spirit still, has a rather unique design. 4 rectification plates sit in its neck, making the spirit particularly fine and complex. At the time of construction, these plates were not actually authorized for Irish whiskey. However, in close dialogue with the Irish authorities, Pearse was able to ensure that the laws were adapted so the rectification plates could be able to be used in his distillery.
Yeah, so this was it with the production, and I'm standing here with Conor Ryan. So you've been here for 8 years at the distillery, and you have a lot of background with chefing, foods, whiskey. So thank you very much for having us here at the distillery.
Not at all, and thank you for coming in to join us today at Pearse Lyons Distillery.
It's so lovely view. It's just so lovely.
It's certainly a unique place.
Yeah, I mean, it's a new monument in Dublin, I think. I mean, there's a lot of tourists going around here, but I think everybody has to stop here as well.
Well, the company, the family, the Lyons family like to say that whiskey is just part of our story.
Yeah.
So when people come here, you get history, you get whiskey, and then I suppose from the outside of the building, you get the Liberties lantern. And that's our new spire that's on the church. And that's what we like to call a new light in Dublin distilling.
Are you like part of the nightlife of Dublin as well? Because of like everybody seems
nightlife,
like
no. But when there's certain occasions come about, we will change. There's colour changers within the spire.
Ah, okay.
And we change the colour to meet, whatever the occasion is. If it's St. Patrick's Day, Chinese New Year, anything in between, if there's a charity event. Or we did a public poll when the latest Star Wars film came out to see if it was going to be red or blue. So and people voted red. So there you go.
Okay. So but now we're interested in your whiskey. I'm really interested of what comes out now, because you got a lot of specialties in producing it as well. So what are we having?
So today we're going to taste through our core range, our Pearse 5-year-old, our Pearse 7-year-old, and our Pearse 12-year-old. And I suppose they all come with their own story, they all come with their own flavour, and I look forward to having a little taste and talk through the core range of Pearse Lyons whiskies with you.
Okay, so you've been producing before 2013, was it?
Yeah, so
you got quite, because you got a 12-year-old, and how old is your stock?
So if you Google us and you kind of look at Pearse Lyons Distillery, you'll see our history starting at June 2017. But what people mightn't know is
17.
we were distilling since 2012. So when Dr. Lyons and Mrs. Lyons bought this beautiful church, that it is beautiful today, it was falling down, dilapidated, and needed a lot of love and attention. So the stills, the beautiful stills, Kentucky Vendome stills that we see on the altar today, were set up in Carlow, in a brewery in Carlow that we had a relationship with, and we were distilling there for 3 years. So what that afforded us and allowed us to do is when the distillery opened up to the public in 2017, we were able to put our own distilled malt in 2 of our core whiskey ranges. Nice. But technically today our whiskey would be over 12 years, just over 12 years old.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm really excited for the first one.
Good, thank you. So the first one we're going to try is our Pearse 5-year-old. I suppose as most of you guys will know, when you see an age statement on a Scottish or an Irish whiskey, other spirits, other countries have their own different nuances, but don't think of a number on a bottle as being an age statement. Think of it as a declaration of youth. So the youngest whiskey in this bottle is 5 years old. The whiskey in this bottle is actually 5 to 9 years old. So the youngest spirit in this is 5, and the youngest spirit is our own malt. And that's about, that's 5-6 years old, but also it's a grain malt blend. The malt is 34% of the liquid. So 34% malt and 66% grain. Now, we don't have a grain distillery. There's only a handful of grain distilleries in the country, and nearly all the grain that's used will be swapped around between the distilleries that have it. So the grain that we use in our Pearse whiskey is corn grain from Cooley. In our halfpenny range, I know it's not, we're not going to look at that now, it's a wheat grain from West Cork Distilleries is what we use. But for our Pearse range of whiskies and our Pearse blended whiskey, we use Cooley corn grain. That's going to be our 7-8-year-old element in this, and the malt element then is our own distilled single malt whiskey.
Okay, you're very transparent with that.
Yeah. since day one, we've been very transparent about all of our whiskies, the source of our whiskies, how they're put together, because, we want people to have a confidence in what they're drinking, and to know that there's no, we hold nothing back, we hold nothing behind, and I suppose that's probably a reason why we went age statement with our blends. Again, so that people have a confidence in what they're buying. So a lot of blends, a lot of blended whiskies are no age statement, and they would have maybe lower percentages of malt and grain. Whereas what we always want to over deliver. So it's a very generous 34% malt in our blend. There's blends these days, not just Irish, I mean just the world over, they could be 95.5, 5% malt pot, and then 95% grain. So 34% malt, and what we're hoping is that when you're tasting a Pearse whiskey, that there'll be a familial kind of DNA, a kind of a signature flavour that you might pick up going through the whiskies, and that's from the elements that you've already described. Our own yeast strains, our own barrels, and our own stills, that they're unique. We'll talk about the grain separately afterwards, but let's have a little nose and a taste of this.
I think it's very malty, very bready, and a very nice sweetness to it. A little bit of a honey touch coming through it as well.
Very much so, and actually that would be something that would be quite quite an element, a feature element in all the whiskies we're going to taste, that honeyed taste. All the barrels that all the bourbon barrels that we use in our Pearse Irish whiskey, they're all sourced from our own sister distillery, Town Branch in Lexington in Kentucky. And because of that, we are able to get barrels that are decanted straight away, grouped together and sent over to us. So they're not drying out, they're beautifully fresh, they're really juicy when they get here. You're not dealing with dried out wood. And then another element about it is, because we use 13% rye in our Town Branch bourbon mash bill, in a previous iteration of it, and that's what we'll be tasting here, there's a lovely little kind of ginger and clove element in our whiskies when it comes to the tasting of it that you'll find through all of them, and that's just the little spice from the rye kicking up at the back of your throat. A point to note about our Pearse core range is that all of our whiskey is natural colour, non-chill filtered, and 43% ABV.
Okay.
So yeah, as you say, that maltiness is there. I also get a little bit of a citrusy note from this particular whiskey. A little bit of coca, a little bit of citrus, lots of malt, lots of sweetness. And that sweetness, again, of course, is from the Town Branch bourbon barrels, but it's a corn-based grain whiskey. So that corn grain, you're going to get a rich, buttery sweetness. Honey is going to be one of them.
Yeah, you feel a bit of that bourbon character in there as well. A little bit of a citrus note, but I think it's a nuance there.
Yeah.
But it's inviting. It's definitely inviting.
Prost.
Prost. Oh.
This, because this is a deliciously versatile whiskey to start with, but not because we had it first, I always consider this whiskey to be almost like an aperitif style whiskey. Because it's so light, it's crisp, and there's a lovely fruit note then on the back of it.
You have a fruit note, but also a little bit of a buttery, malty kind of red. It feels like also a little bit of a spicy note when you have a second sip. It's a little bit, feels like a little bit of like the German Spekulatius. It's not gingerbread, but it's a little bit more sweet than a gingerbread.
Yeah, and that kind of warming that you get on the back of your throat is kind of one of those signatures that come through on our spirit from that rye element in the bourbon.
Oh, I like it. It's more spicy than I expected.
Yes, and that
from what I had with the new make,
Yeah.
expected a little bit less spiciness, but it has
there.
a good body.
And that's wood spice, along with mentioned the rye spice, This is a great, sipping whiskey for one. With my other life background in catering, I love doing food pairings with our Pearse whiskies when we get the opportunity. And things that works superbly well with this would be things like smoked salmon or sushi, obviously fish dishes, but also things like soft goat cheese and beetroot, and even mint chocolate, if you're going to put it with a dessert. Like a mint chocolate works really well with this. But there's a lovely warmth and length of spice to this. And then if you liked mixing your drinks, this goes really well with citrus drinks.
Okay.
Anything like a sour or even a highball with like a lemon soda, that kind of thing.
Okay. So, but you are the head of production here, and 8 years. Have you been with when the stills came in? Have you been there?
So I started with the distillery in about October 2016, before the distillery was fully commissioned.
Okay. So, how was the run up? How was the startup?
Pressurized, even though what should have been the plan was when the Lyons family bought the church to turn it into a distillery. The plan was for it to be an 18-month project, but 2 weeks after the distillery was purchased by the Lyons family, it got turned into a national monument. So now you have a whole different world of renovation going on. So what should have been an 18-month project became a 4-year project. And even though you had 4 years, we were still under pressure to get open, because we wanted to get open for summer 17, but to be open for St. James's Day, which was the 25th of June. And we got there. So the stills were dropped down through, they were actually in situ when I started. The stills were dropped down through the roof before the roof was put back together. And I wouldn't have been involved in the production side of things when I started at the distillery, but I'm involved in the production side of things now.
Okay.
It was more to do with the brand script and doing the whiskey blends, not the production of it, and kind of moved then towards the production as time went on, involved with the production and even down to, the procurement and packaging of all of our products.
Okay. Yeah, I think putting like the script together, there's just so much history, so much information, so many relatives, and so many.
Yeah. Well, we had historians, we had archivists, loads of people involved in that. I suppose the story that I was trying to put together when I started with the company was to tie together the phenomenal background of Dr. Lyons in brewing distilling in Ireland and in the USA, along with a flavour profile and look for whiskies, and then for us here to be able to curate that story, narrate it, and get it out to the public. Yeah, I was more about the story and the liquid rather than the deep history.
Yeah, the thing is, you only got so much space and so much time. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to tell.
There's a lot to tell. Actually, there was a phenomenal man who used to work with us as a brand ambassador here at the distillery and out and about, and he was working with us for he's working with us for years, but after about 9 months, he said, "Conor, I've been at loads of tastings with you, and this isn't a criticism," he said, "but I've never heard the same story twice." And he goes, I said, "I promise you, it's not that I'm making up the story, it's just that you have to hopefully try and read a room and tell people the story that you think is going to resonate with them. Sometimes you're doing a tasting and people want to know purely about the whiskey. Sometimes you're doing a tasting and people want to know about the story of the church. Sometimes people know Dr. Lyons' backstory and want to hear more about him working with Diageo and Irish distillers, and how Middleton Distillery, his involvement in that. And some people want to know about the science. So we do have a lot to tell, a lot of a story to tell, and we have a lot of stories, and it's hard to, pardon the pun, distill that down into one sitting.
Yeah, sure. And so the 7-year-old is next.
7-year-old, yes.
So what is inside?
So this whiskey here, again, is 43% ABV, natural colour, non-chill filtered, and this here is a combination of slightly more malt. It's 36% malt, 64% grain. So it's our own distilled malt. It's Cooley corn grain again. But in this, what's different from our 5-year-old, this here is Town Branch bourbon, aged corn and malt, and also a Kentucky bourbon barrel stout element in this. This one here would have a Kentucky bourbon barrel ale element. So, I know it's a bit of a mouthful.
So
in
instead
America,
of stout, ale.
yeah, ale, a red ale.
Okay.
So in the US, as well as distilling a bourbon, a rye, and a single malt, we also have a brewery. And in that co-located brewery and distillery in Lexington and Kentucky, in Town Branch, we produce Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. And that is an Irish red ale that spends 40 to 60 days within freshly decanted bourbon barrels. It's got a huge following. It doesn't sound like a massive deal today, but in 1999, when Dr. Lyons started doing barrel-aged beer, it was quite an innovation. And we wanted to kind of bring a flavour in everything we do. Dr. Lyons liked to mix together his history. So when he started distilling in America, he brought over Scottish Foresight stills, because that's what he would have been used to using when he was working with Middleton. And when he came to Ireland, we brought over those beautiful Kentucky Vendome stills. So in this bottle here, it's a 7-year-old. So 7 isn't the age, 7 is how young it is. So it's a 7 to 11-year-old whiskey. So the grain element is 11 years old. The malt element is 7 to 9 years old in this. And it's aged in Kentucky Bourbon Barrel Ale. It's aged in Town Branch Bourbon and a little bit of Oloroso Sherry.
Okay. So it's quite a mixture.
Quite a mixture. This here, this particular whiskey would have won Best Blended in the World Whiskies Awards, would have won Best Blended Whiskey under 12 years old 2 consecutive years in a row.
Oh.
Yeah. So, Prost, Sláinte.
Okay, this is much more deep and fruity.
It's a different creature, and I suppose what Dr. Lyons wanted and what he knew is that we're not Henry Ford. We don't say you can have any color you want as long as it's black. We know that whiskey. There isn't a one bottle fits all for people. You know, people say to me, "Well, what's your favorite time to drink whiskey?" Or what's your favorite whiskey to drink? And I say, what time are we talking about? Is it 10 o'clock in the morning? Is it 10 o'clock at night?
What's your favorite whiskey?
Are we eating?
It's hard to answer if you. This is just not possible.
Yeah. So the whiskies, hopefully you'll see that they are all different from each other, and they offer something different to your palate and different for what you're doing. This here is a very versatile whiskey. It's a great sipping whiskey. Great for short, strong cocktails if you're making in like an Irish old fashioned or a Manhattan or these kind of things to get your short, strong American drinks. But always try everything neat first and see what you think. So that sherry element, you're getting your dried fruit, your dried wood spices kind of coming through.
It's strange. You have these sherry elements, the dried fruits, bit of red fruit, but when you get accustomed to it, you feel the fresh fruitiness, a little bit of that citrus note, a lot of vanilla, a lot of caramel, but kind of a distillery character.
Yes. Well, so we'll go.
Cheers.
Now, what I want to tell you about the grain element, because people, just to know how we get our signature kind of flavor going on. Even all the grain that's sourced, when it was purchased back in 2000, in the early days, before we opened up the distillery here, all the grain that we sourced, we emptied it out of the barrels that it was in and refilled it into Town Branch bourbon barrels as well.
Ah, okay.
So every drop of liquid even the liquid that isn't ours, we have recasked into our own Town Branch barrels to hopefully keep our own signature flavor kind of going along with everything that we do. This year you'll get a little bit more viscosity to it, a little bit more body, a little bit more of a charred element. As you say, your red fruit.
It is more volume and a lot more deeper. So this one was I wouldn't say, yeah, it was fresher and lighter. This one has
And that's
more
why I
body
always kind of
to it.
liken this to kind of retrospectively, you know, after tasting two
Yeah.
whiskies, it is a very aperitif style whiskey. You know, it's
yeah.
you know, it's something that you'd have at the start of an evening maybe.
Definitely, for 7-year-old, it has quite a lot of volume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, that's to do with freshness of the casks. You know yourself when
Yeah.
you're drinking a malt whiskey, let's say from, you know, a good malt whiskey from wherever, to get that kind of viscosity, that oiliness, you know that it's normally over 10, 12 years old. That's kind of wood resins as well coming back out of the wood. But again, because all the barrels that we use are so fresh and brought over as quickly as possible from our own distillery, you're getting a superb quality barrel to start off aging your spirit in. And it is quite resinous as well. And a little bit of a piney note as well, speaking of resin. And sometimes I get kind of a little bit more herbal in between the depth of this one. When I'm talking and the air starts hitting my palate, you're getting a little bit more of a herbal note in the middle as well for me.
Yeah, it has quite a complexity as well. You have the sherry, you have like the rye, you have a bit of your distillery character.
Yeah.
You have lighter notes from the grain, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's all over the place.
And hope, you know, and hopefully it strikes a chord with people. You know, as I said, it's about giving people choice. The whole world is about choice, variety, and hoping that you find a product that will resonate with certain people.
And the thing is, you told me a nice story about setting up with your own barley. I do love the idea that you have your own barley. Did that? How was that? And did that change anything to like the new make or?
So since 2020, the liquid that we've distilled with our own grown grain isn't in these bottles yet, but we have had releases with it.
Okay.
But what we started doing in 2020 was to grow our own grain on our own land, only 25 kilometres away from the distillery. So in Dunboyne in County Meath, we grow barley, oats, wheat, and a little bit of rye.
Okay.
And so all the grain that we've used since 2021, because we started growing it in 2020, all the grain that we use since 2021 has been our own grown grain from our own land, and then distilled with our own proprietary yeast on our own stills and aged in our own barrels.
So you're in the 4th year. So yeah, that was before that.
So,
but in terms of like new make, did you have any differences? Did you need to tweak something, or was
no,
it?
we didn't have to tweak the. I mean, the numbers coming off, the protein and moisture levels were all, you know, all good as you'd expect. For us, when we started to grow our own grain, it wasn't about using the word terroir. It wasn't about saying that our grain is going to be better than anybody else's. It was all about having control over your own supply chain.
Oh, okay.
Knowing where your products are coming from and know how they've been handled. So when we do our pot still whiskey, we know that our grain has to travel almost no distance because, you know, it's unmalted cereal that you mix in with your malted cereal to make your pot still whiskey. It was about sustainability, and also the measures that we use out in the farm is about sustainability. We've pollinator strips around the field. We're after introducing agroforestry, which is basically, it kind of goes against normal farmers' minds. I come from a farming background myself. So we've big open fields, and farmers love big open fields for cereal.
Cereal, you just drive with you.
So what we started doing, so agroforestry is really, it's a vintage type of farming that's coming back, where you plant channels of trees in the middle of your field, wide enough that you can still go down with your machinery, but by planting these trees, we've planted apple trees. And so that's the Silvaro system of agroforestry. And to do this, what it does is it adds to the biodiversity of the fields. It means you need to do less, you need to get involved with the grain less, because there's these natural field breaks where the roots are going to help to keep moisture in the ground, the canopy, you know, as leaves fall off the trees in the wintertime, it'll decompose into the land. So it's just about a more sustainable type of farming. So when we say we grow our own grain, it's not to say that our grain is better than anybody else's. It's just about knowing the source of your product, knowing what's been put on it, and knowing that it only has to travel a short distance to us. And I suppose we have, since we've grown our own grain, so I'm not saying it's better than any other grain, but since we've grown our own grain, our new make has won like 3 different awards for new make. One of the awards was in the World Whiskies Awards, where it won Best New Make and Young Spirit, and it became first runner-up globally, where it came second place to a product that wasn't even whiskey. So we'll take that. So it did very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the 12-year-old.
Yes. So the 12-year-old itself. So we've a combination of stout and bourbon barrels. We've our Irish red ale, aged beer barrels, Oloroso sherry, and bourbon. This here is all bourbon.
All bourbon?
Yeah. It's actually, we don't put it on the label, but it's a double bourbon barrel-aged whiskey.
Okay.
So this whiskey here is, even though we have 12-year-old of our own right now, for full transparency, this is still sourced spirit.
Oh, okay.
So this is a double distilled coulis malt. Again, we always go by, we don't do anything by minimum. This is it says 12, this is a 12 to 14-year-old single malt.
But
we're going migrating into our own malt soon.
Okay.
And when this was sourced, it was emptied out of the barrels that it was in, and it was refilled into Town Branch bourbon barrels. So just that when I say it's double bourbon, it was aged in bourbon for 5 years, and then we decanted it, and it's been in our own Town Branch bourbon barrels then for 8, 9 years at this stage.
Okay, so, okay, you got it, okay, then you changed to your barrels, and now it's in the glass.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, again, and I was at an event where there was a few coulis sourced bourbon barrel aged whiskies, and I was put to the test and asked could I pick out our own one.
Ooh.
There was 5. I got as far as number 3, and I said that was it. And they said, "Are you sure?" And I goes, "Absolutely." And when you taste it, I hope you might pick up the differences in it. And again, it's that honey note. You're going to get a massive honey note from this one because of it's been aged twice in bourbon. You know, it hasn't just been left in the same bourbon barrel for 12, 14 years. Massive honey note, kind of a custard creme brulee, kind of really rich, and that
it feels
honey note, that vanilla note that you were talking about.
Feels a little bit like a cake.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
so
bit
this
like
one, you know,
like a sweet cake.
Yeah. This actually pairs really well. Well, I wouldn't mix it with anything, but except for more whiskey. But it goes really well with kind of vintage salty cheeses. You know, kind of hard cheeses. It goes very nice.
But when you get behind the whole cake sweetness, I did get a bit of a more hard to describe, but a little bit more of a little bit of a, like, not a smoky note, but a little bit of a phenolic note, just a smidge of it, and fresh fruits as well. So it's kind of like a not like a cloud, but like a drape where you have to get behind all that honey sweetness, and you find a little bit more depth in it.
Because, and that's something about this. This is a great discovery whiskey, because when you taste it first, you kind of go, it's really in your face. It's that big natural honey, vanilla sweetness, and you go like, oh, that's nice. But then, as it kind of goes down and you breathe in over your palate, you kind of realize, oh, there's a bit more going on here. It's an interesting spice. There's that ginger and clove note kind of kicks up in the back a little bit.
The more you have it in your mouth, the heftier it becomes.
Yeah.
It feels like really like easy, very easy. And then you get more, you get into gingerbread, you get into cloves, you get into And just that.
And there's a lovely viscosity to it as well. It's kind of a silkiness to it. Again, that's that oiliness from using good wood.
But it's strange. What is missing is your distillery character.
Yes. Because
Yes.
it's not our own.
It's not your own, yeah.
Yeah.
That is
But
what's missing.
we're
I mean,
hoping
you can
to-
feel a little bit like the similarities, and it's probably the oak, I would say,
Yeah.
with that honey note you said, and a little bit of that cake
Yeah.
note. That
It's
is
all
very similar.
the wood notes.
But
yeah.
it's a different whiskey.
But it's a different
It's a different whiskey.
Yeah.
I like Kool-Aid, but it's a different whiskey.
Yeah.
But
I'd
the,
like
the
to think
similarities are nice.
there's similarities to our own stock, but it's also, I think, a little bit different enough from other Cooley stock you might have tasted. You know, it's got a little bit different and a little bit of our own signature DNA with that lovely ginger clove note kind of kicking up at the back.
Yeah. Nice. And I'm really looking forward for your 12-year-old.
Well, you can.
It's not long.
Well, it's not long, and I have a cask sample I'd like you to try in a minute. So.
Oh, okay, nice.
And you will be able to taste that exact whiskey.
But I think for this video we are done.
Yeah.
So thank you very much
No,
for
not at all,
everything.
and thank you very
It
much.
was-
Appreciate you coming in.
It was really a pleasure to see all this and hear all the stories and just to bring this to you actually. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. And if you are interested in these whiskies, have a look at Whisky.com and Whisky.de if you live in the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Austria or Switzerland. And yeah, thank you very much for watching and see you next time.